Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Hello, folks. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We have a great show for you today again. But then again, don't we always? That's what we try to do. That's what we aim to do, because it's all about whom again? It's all about you. As we speak, I am trying to get all my P's tied. Well, how it goes? All my I's dotted and my T crossed. And I got my 4 videos up, ready to go. All right, we are in business. How are my peeps doing today? It's a bad day. Not to worry. Remember what it takes. Remember what it takes. Anyhow, let me welcome our folks first of all. Then we'll get busy. Hey, we've got first one in the house, AVQ, El Senor Michael Rudden from Brooklyn, New York. We also have Patrick Magna from Houston. Meow. We also have Yvette Avery Herod. What I'm going to will it. You know, let me tell you a quick story before we get started. One of the first interviews that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had was with yours truly at Netroots Nation. I think it was in Arizona. I think that's where it was. And this young girl came. I remember she had just come back from the pipelines where she was doing some protests, etc. And she was running for Congress, and she came. And I spoke to her, and we had to do the interview twice because I had my sound system bad, not working the right way. And then Alexandria came in, and she said, AOC came in, and she had no problems doing it again. And after watching her poise and her intelligence, etc., I looked her straight in the eye and I said, I'm speaking to the next representative from New York. I don't remember the name of the guy. The name of the guy that she beat was supposed to be the next Speaker of the House. Well, she beat him, took him out. But I was the first person, the absolute first person to tell her that she was going to beat that guy. Nobody thought she had a chance. And I told her she was going to beat that guy. And actually, that video, I'm so proud of that take. That's a video that starts on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, that's the first, that's the introducing video, if you will. I think I ended the video saying, and you will be the next congressperson, etc. I said, Joseph Crowley, thank you, my brother. See, I get the smartest listeners. Crowley was the name of the guy. Yeah, and she beat him to kingdom come. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes from King Wetaskiwin, Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. And let's see, did I miss anybody? In the house, we have Tamara. I didn't get everybody from the top of the Substack, but we got Tamara, Joe, Greg, George Elser, Kat, Ray Owens, Roosevelt Thomas, William Russ, LBW, Jeff Sanders, Catherine Taylor, Susan Olson. Hey, you know what? I'm only going to call your name on Substack because there's so many. If you give me your city and state, and then I'll call it out. LBW says, oh man, what a day. Does everyone else feel as disgusted as I do? Between the passage of this big bloated billionaire bill and the picture I just saw of DT, DeSantis, and the gnome laughing in front of the concentration camp they just built in the Everglades, I just about done. No, look, you know what? You are going to make me start the program where I didn't want to start it, sister LBW. But I need to speak to you, LBW. I need to speak to you. Give me 2 seconds to salute a few more, and we'll get to that first video. Do you lie? How you doing? Just came back from New York. I hope all is fine. Although in all the Ubers and yellow cabs I was in, did not ask about new mayor candidate. Wow, that's interesting. Catherine Taylor says, horrible day. Need you. Maryland. Thank you very much, Maryland. By the way, I was in Kingwood Friday. Why the hell didn't you give me a call? You got my info. You know I'm going to keep fighting, but it's just so much. Don't worry, LBW. Don't worry. I want you guys to listen. I prepared this knowing that I was going to get a lot of notice like that because I've already started getting them in emails directly. My brother, Bruce Pollard from Another Mother. Bruce says, good day. Hey, Allred jumped into the Senate race. I know he did. He better start coming to Houston and Dallas and all these other places. Build your base first. And then we go all over, of course. Absolutely. So Lee Grant from Montgomery County, welcome aboard. Anthony Lofranco from Laguna Beach says, yo. And Joe says she sent an email to info@politicsandright.com. I'll check that out. But anyway, I want you guys to listen to this. This is, as soon as I got this email from this woman, I felt her pain. I understood where she was coming from. Welcome aboard E2247. And I just wanted to say this. So I want you guys, all of you that are feeling any kind of despair right now, please hear this. Please do. One of our listeners sent an email today that really touched me to the core. And it was one sentence. And paraphrasing, it says, I am depressed. I need to take a break. And then I realized over the last few days, we've had two major hits, right? One, and with the same bill. The House passed the bill by one vote, and the Senate just passed the bill by the vote of the vice president. But ultimately, what happened is a bill, a horrendously bad bill that will harm people, that will kill people, that will starve people, got passed. Even as most people, and all of you see the polls, most people know that the vast majority of Americans want nothing to do with that bill. They don't want that bill passed. So when I got that email and it said, I'm depressed, I need to take a break. My first contention or my first feeling why I am on here, because I just read it, why I'm on here is to say this. That is the reaction they want out of the poor and the middle class. They want us to feel like we have no choice. They want us to feel as if it's a foregone conclusion. The politicians, under the auspices of their benefactors, the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the wealthy folks are going to do as they please, get on board or get off. And you cannot blame somebody who says, you know what? It's so tough. I'm checking out. I'm checking out. I can't handle it anymore. I need to go into my cocoon. And my answer to that is simple. My answer to that is yes. As long as all of us are not in the cocoon at the same time. As long as all of us realize, even if we have to take a break, we have to stay in the game because they depend on all of us taking a break to move forward. In all the different activist movements that we've had, in all the movements where we engage, there was a lull. There was a time when people just thought they couldn't do it. That happened with the women's movement. That happened with the civil rights movement. That happened with the gay rights movement. That happened with just about every movement. You fight, you get ahead, they come back and they bust your spirit. And then you say again, what's the point? Well, the cliches here mean something. Democracy is not static. Your freedom is not static because there are always that percentage of folk, especially in an economic system like ours, that will take and take and take and take until they're stopped. And that's not the majority of us. But it so happened that minority of us, many a times, have the ability to frame discussions that leave us in one of two places. Join the bandwagon, become a part of the team, even as it hurts people, or check out. Well, my answer to that is neither. There is no checking out. But here's it again. For our friends who need to check out, temporarily do so. Temporarily, if you need to take a break for your mental sanity, do so. But keep those of us that are empowered to stay in the fight and keep fighting for you and fighting for us. You know, there's some of us that are willing to do that continuously. So the end point that I want to make is, as long as when we're checking out, as long as when we're taking a break, as long as when we're taking a breather, we just look at it and say, but we have to re-engage, because we're not going to cede our country, our democracy, our freedom, our liberty to anyone. We won't cede that to anyone. And collectively, my brother and my sister is in fact my keeper. There are more of us out there. And I repeat, don't be fooled. They may have a lot of money, but there are more of us out there than they are of them. And as long as we don't fall for the okey doke of all of us checking out all at once, we will always be our brothers and sisters' keeper. Folks like me, of course, will always be engaged in the game. I don't ever intend to check out or take a break. But I tell you what, not all of us can do that. Not all of us are made to do that. Not all of us have to do that. So the motto, the moral of what I'm coming on to point out is this, my brothers and sisters. Check out if you have to. Check out for a time, but don't check out forever. And stay engaged, however small, however large, because I'm telling you, we are going to win this ultimately if we engage. We're going to lose this. We're likely to lose this battle on this particular bill, even as I will continue to say, call, fight, because you never know which nerve you're going to hit. But even if that bill ultimately becomes law, we're going to be fighting for the remainder of 2025 for the elections that are up in 2025. And we're going to be going big for the elections in 2026. And mark my word, never giving up. And ultimately, we are going to do exactly what America has always said that America represents. So that is the message I hope. I did that right away earlier this morning because, you know, I wanted to get it out there, and I wrote a corresponding blog for that. And let me go ahead and put that on the put that in the chat, because I made it a little bit more in depth after I went ahead and made the pros ad hoc. So what I did is I put the link to the actual article that I wrote with it in the chat. So yeah, my friends, look, the way the system beats us, right, is they want to knock you down so hard. That's what they learn. If you notice, they're sycophants, right? Their sycophants just repeat things. Look at the sycophants that we have in the chat. They don't have any form of critical thinking. They don't look and say, if this happens, that is going to be the outcome. That is going to create these issues. They just go and they are the hallelujah singers for the plutocracy. I mean, they're getting screwed, but they are the hallelujah singers for the plutocracy. They are the singers for the plutocracy. And the idea is, if we create that family of puppets, what happens is they can demoralize those of us who are thinking. Those of us who understand that the first casualty of this bill is going to be nursing homes, and that as the nursing homes fail, families fail, because as I mentioned earlier this morning in my program, societies in Latin America share a different reality than societies in the United States. In Panama and Costa Rica, etc., we generally don't put people in nursing homes. It's not a big part of our economy. And we don't, to be honest, we don't work as hard as Americans. Americans are the hardest working people on the planet, bar none. This is a working country. You go to other countries, they have all kinds of vacations and time offs, but we work like, when I call us at the antiseptic slave country, that's what I mean. We don't know any better because we don't know. But you go to any other country in Latin America, you have the siesta. In España, in Spain, you have people go to work, they have the long lunches and they go back. I mean, we are the hardest working people on the planet. Understood why we have to have nursing homes to care of our elderly, our infirmed, etc. And given that our society demands so much work from us, one would think that it would ensure that the safety net is in such a manner that it can continue. But even that, like I said, our form of capitalism it keeps have to be coming for more, because growth is unsteady. Growth is disproportional. That's why they keep having to rob from the poor and the middle class to do what they're doing now. So, like I said, the start is going to be the nursing homes. All those families dependent on the nursing homes, then, when their lives are disrupted, the lives of when I talk about critical thinking, these are the things I'm talking about. The lives of the disruptive will disrupt their companies, will disrupt their kids' life, and the disruption and the dysfunction continues. We talk about, why do we have guns? Why do we have such mental dysfunction in this country? Well, with a horrendous safety net, right? What happens is, first, daddy could work and mommy could take care of the kids and make sure. And I know that's a sexist sort of thing, but that's, in today's world, it should be either mommy or daddy work, whichever ones choose to, and the others take care of the kids. Well, that's eliminated. That's gone. We depend on mommy and daddy working now. And then as children grow up, we got mommy working, children working, daddy working. And as that goes on, we now have to have families that double up to be able to afford these mortgages because of inflated prices created just because in a capitalist system of growth that is disproportional to the growth of the entire economy at large. We are creating our own demise. And again, the idea is you don't see that if you are so depressed, if you have the sycophants that are there just saying the stupidity, some of which you're listening to in the chat right now, you're constantly hearing that these are people that cannot critically think and understand the permutations of what occur as society degenerates because of their policies, right? That's what we get. So my monologue that I gave there was to tell you, look, steady thinking, calm. When it becomes overwhelming, check out. We'll still be here. We are our brothers and sisters keepers, and we are a collective. I am hoping we can build cells of families. And my PDR network, my PDR posse, you guys are my family, and other families get built as we structure and enforce strengthening the mind. But again, so that's the main point here. Now, I just said the people who are the biggest defenders of these programs, the biggest defenders of these programs, are the ones who are losing the most. Theirs are the ones, and as they lose the most, they're fooled into believing that we are the ones responsible for their demise, when it is their own acceptance, willful ignorance of what's going on. So check this out. I want you to listen to, this is what I've spoken about this a lot of times, but it's always good to get this kind of reinforcement. When you have the mainstream media coming out and telling red states something they should have been constantly telling them over and again, that, hey guys, red states, you are the ones that are going to suffer the most out of the great, big, beautiful bill. You are going to be the ones suffering like this.
Is this a bill that hurts people more in red states than blue states? And then does this face tremendous backlash come November next year in the midterms? You first.
Alex, I'm glad that you mentioned this, because the disproportionate amount of folks that are dependent on Medicaid are in red states. And I think that is one of the reasons why Holly's, trying to sound the alarm. It's also one of the reasons why Linda Markowski is getting so much favor for Alaska specifically, because clearly she is on the fence. And one of the individuals that I'm looking at is Susan Collins, because she is trying to decide where she's going to be politically. And she realizes that she needs to be able to bring all this money back to her state in order for her to have a safe election. At the end of the day, it's negotiations. I used to do appropriations a long time ago when I was a Hill staffer. And when you see the people that are holding out, they're often the ones that are going to reap the biggest benefits back to their states.
And guess what? Collins decided I can't vote for it. So she was one of the 3 Republicans who voted against it. They coerced Murkowski into signing the bill by giving Alaska, only Alaska, gets breaks from the Medicaid stuff. She gets breaks for the whalers. She gets breaks for all these other folks for her yes. And then she gets interviewed. And what did Murkowski say? Murkowski says, I hope the bill fails in the House. And why do I hope the bill fails in the House? Because it's a bad bill. And the rest of the country will suffer more so than Alaska, because at least I went and I fought for my people in Alaska, but all the other states couldn't do what I did for Alaska. Folks, this bill is so bad. This bill is so bad in what it's going to do. And all of that to transfer wealth to the top. It would have been so simple, right? They could have said, we are going to hold on to all the stuff, all the tax cuts that we gave to poor people, to the middle class. Let's hold on to that. But let's revert to the original tax system for the wealthy. That would have closed $1 trillion hole in that deficit that they're talking about. And then they could have said, wait a minute. To save Social Security, we will get the 60 votes necessary if we say, go ahead and apply Social Security taxes to all income. We won't any longer have it benefiting the rich, as the poor and the middle class pay the full Social Security bill. There are so many things for us to do. There are so many things we can do right now that will not only make the economy soar. And look, if you study Economics 101, all right? Economics 101 tells you this. It's not about how much static money you have in a bank or put away. That's not what it's all about. It's all about how fast you can get money to circulate. America doesn't have a money problem. America is rich. Most Americans don't understand the level of wealth of the 0.1%. I heard one of the commentators on MSNBC today. They got me real upset. And I'm going to get into the rest of the stuff with the bills in a little bit. But I want you guys to, as I think about things, I want you guys to get a little bit of this. They like to use this notion. If we taxed all the income of the wealthy, we still wouldn't be able to balance the budget. Big lie. Big lie. Let me explain. And I think I did some of these explanations before, but I want to point this out. What we have allowed the rich to do is define income. So when you go to work and you get wages, they call that income, right? If I'm an executive at a company, I don't want wages. I don't want to get a $10 million salary. Give me stock options. Give me stock options. Because guess what? We didn't define stock options as regular income. So that is treated completely different from taxes. Our tax system has created this big chasm between the super rich and the rest of us. So therefore, they would tell you, you can't tax enough people to balance the budget. That's not true. All we have to do is redefine what income is. Let me give an example. If I want to spend $1 billion, if I'm a billionaire and I want to spend $500 million a year, and I used this example before, if I want to spend $500 million a year, that would mean that I'll have to sell my more than $500 million of stocks because I got to pay the capital gains on that stock, right? And that would be a big tax bill. You know, if I want to spend $500 million, I may have to spend, it's still cheaper than a regular tax, maybe 23% or so on capital gains, which means I'll have to spend, I don't know, a few, maybe $100 million of that $500 million. But guess what else I can do? I can just borrow against it and never pay it back. It is income. I'm doing everything that the working person is doing. I'm buying pizzas. I'm buying cars. I'm buying planes. I'm doing all this stuff on borrowed money that is backed by the real money I have in stocks. I pay zero in taxes. But no, I actually do better. I pass it through my LLC. And guess what? I also get a tax break. People, the whole tax system that they've devised here is to steal from the middle class. Earlier this morning, I pointed out what they're doing with Meta, the company who owns Facebook. As soon as this bill is signed, Meta gets $15.1 billion up front. How did they do that? Here it goes. We could spend all the deductibles that we have, rather the co-pays we have in insurance. We could eliminate that for the entire, for everybody on Medicaid, Medicare. We could eliminate all those prepays, those prepays, all of it for under $15 billion. But as soon as this bill is signed, Meta gets what? $15 billion. How? How do they do that? Well, research and development, right? They are going to be able to write off not only this year's research and development, but their past research and development since 2022. Oh my God, really? So here we go, a bill that's talking about we're increasing the budget, causing deficits, and we just give Meta, the people who are going to invent AI, who's going to make a killing on AI, who makes a killing on your brain. Look, Facebook, the raw material for Facebook is your eyeball. You are the raw material for Facebook. So Facebook, every penny that Facebook makes is because you are willing to be on Facebook. You are willing to be on Instagram. Every dollar that they make is because you are willing to pick up that phone and look at that screen. And with that, it allows them to sell advertising, etc. So they make free money off of your eyeballs. And now they're going to make further money because we're going to tell them all the research and development you did to develop that application on that cell phone, to develop that AI model, that large language model that you're developing. we the American people are going to pay for it as well, because you can now write it off instead of spending it on taxes. Oh my God. So look at how they make money. They make money on your eyeballs. They make money because their R&D can be written off, and then they make money charging you for AI. Who are the socialists here, people? Who are the ones freeloading people? And by the way, the engineers at Facebook don't get that benefit. This is all for the executive class, the wealthy class, and all of that. So when they talk about the money isn't there, it requires you to not think critically. It requires you to not think critically. So here's this bill, and in this bill, we give them $15 billion. Look it up. By the way, I took the entire 750-page bill. The new one that they passed today is only 885. I couldn't find the bill before I came on air, but the old bill, the one that is still, that 885 pages is still most of the new bill, right? I couldn't find the other stuff in there. But when I found out about this Meta stuff, it was like unbelievable. They just gave $25 billion, increased it to $50 billion to try to stop closing all these rural hospitals that they're going to close. Well, they could forget about giving that tax break and go ahead and do it. All right, do you license Willies? I hear you, but you're speaking to the choir. No, let me tell you what I do with this. All this stuff that I'm talking here to, my brother, a lot of it, I post-process all our stuff. And it goes all over the place, including into red zones. And while everybody aren't going to hear it, some will. And there are people on the right on the fence. Because what I just told you about Meta, what I just said about Meta, there are a lot of smart thinking Republicans that have never been exposed to that reality. And that will have them thinking, because nobody wants to be made a fool out of. Okay? Nobody wants to be made a fool out of. And by the way, Eric, that fact check that you do, I seen all these fact checks. The statement that I just made about Meta is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, the statement I made about Meta. And it's not only about Meta, it is also about all these companies that get money for R&D. Let me expand on this a bit, because since our brother doesn't really understand what he's talking about, right? They want to say it's half true. The only reason they say it's half true is they don't want you to understand how capitalism really works. That's why they call it, you notice they didn't come and say true. They had to say half true. It is completely true. Now, let me tell you, all companies, right? All companies get all kinds of breaks and write-offs. I once told our audience that corporations don't take risks. They claim that the reason we have profits is because corporations take risks. It is also because these capitalists risks their monies, risks their capital, risks their investment. That's what they say, right? It's BS. It is all BS. Companies do not take risk, period. And let me tell you how they hide risks. Let's say I'm going to develop drugs. Most of the drugs that we develop, most of the technologies that we develop, most of science development does not occur originally in the labs at corporations. NASA developed a lot of technology. I worked for NASA back in the 90s and the 2000s. NASA develops a lot of technology that it goes into the public domain, and others build companies on that. Elon Musk's SpaceX is technologies we developed at NASA, and they just make money out of it. Okay, most of the drugs that you purchase for your or the precursors are developed at universities where the NIH and many other places invest into these things and study it. And when they become viable or have a high level of viability, then people accept it and they move on with it and they turn it into marketing. And after the marketing comes, they rip us off. They bill us a second time. So we pay our taxes to develop the precursors to the drugs. The drug companies market it, do some testing on it, and then they inflate the prices and we pay for it again. Now, when it comes to risk, people say, but there are drugs that these guys have developed from the precursors that don't turn into a marketable material and they lose a lot of $1 million on it. True. But they never really lose $1 million on it, the millions of dollars on it. And you know why? Because every time a corporation loses money, they then write it off. So we, the American people, pay for the losses of corporations. They never pay for anything. And under the worst case scenario, they do a magical thing called bankruptcy. Again, it's important for us to understand this. Corporations don't take risks. And when they tell you that we have these humongous profits because we take risks and we risk our capital, it's a lie. And for those who say, well, I lost a lot of money in the stock market, even people who invest in stock market that are rich don't have to worry. Because if I lose a lot of money in stock number one, I just go ahead and hurry up and sell a stock that I made a whole lot of capital gains in and do what again? And write that off. Because that stock that I lost would offset the capital gains of the others. So that's why the rich who are really rich stay rich, because the system is biased for them. But you owe a bill, they take you to the cleaners. Okay, so I think it's important that we realize that. Do You Lie says, I do not think you know where the new battleground is. You're fighting hard ingrown politics. Nothing new in the new growth politics leaders. Write off the old believers, reach the new voters. Well, the new voters are the folks who are not voting. And a lot of these people are the ones who don't know this. Now we are reaching them. And how do we reach them? We reach them into the domains where they are. TikTok, Instagram, Telegram. And we invest in all those places. And by the way, let me say about stocks. Do you lie? You ever heard of something called Robinhood? A lot of our Gen Zs are big time into day trading and all of that. So we have a lot of our people there. Invest in learning a little bit about our Gen Zs and our younger millennials. That's where they are. You ever heard of Reddit? Reddit is also where they are, where they're trying all these things within capitalism. In fact, a lot of them jumped onto Donald Trump because Donald Trump was for leaving laissez-faire in these areas until they lost their shirts. All right, I got to keep on moving with some videos now. I hope this was somewhat informative. What does Reverend Barber think about this great, big, bad bill? I have always spoken about us having to articulate how things really are, right? In other words, what is murder? Murder is knowingly causing the death of somebody from your actions, right? Manslaughter is, well, I killed somebody. I didn't involuntary manslaughter. I killed somebody. I really didn't want to do it. But murder is more there's a level between murder where the thing that you do could cause death, right? You're not sure, but it could cause death. And I think we ought to use this more on our Republican politicians and neoliberal politicians who don't really care whether their actions cause the death of people or not. And today I was very happy to see Reverend Barber go there, a man that I've interviewed several times and have the utmost respect for. And he went there. Check this out.
Joining us now, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. He's co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign and the leader of the Repairers of the Breach, the group that organizes the Moral Monday protests. Reverend Doctor, thank you for joining us. I wonder if you can talk to us more about the stories that you've heard from people who are coming out, braving heat in a lot of these cases at these protests to just try to get lawmakers to understand what the impact is going to be for them, an impact that isn't Republican or Democrat, it's just on people.
It's just life. I mean, these people, we've been screaming since Ash Wednesday and saying to the faith community, we should have been out long earlier than this, because Elena was literally risking her life yesterday. She didn't know she would have an aneurysm. His son is a quadriplegic. And there are thousands of people like that that have testified. Millions of people tuned in yesterday. Almost 1,000 people joined us. We had 51 caskets because 51,000 people, according to studies at Yale and Penn, will die in the first year of this bill because it is a policy murder and policy violence. This bill is morally indefensible. It cuts more than 16 million people from healthcare unnecessarily just to give money to the greedy and wealthy who don't need it. This is a damnable, destructive, ugly, deadly, violent bill. It is constitutionally inconsistent because these people swore to provide for the general welfare of all people and to ensure justice. There's no justice about this. And this bill is economically insane. I mean, the amount of money that's being transferred from poor and working people to the wealthy that don't need it. This is the biggest transfer of wealth that was was transferred from the slave master, from the slaves to the slave master. I mean, this is civilizational changing stuff. This is harmful and deadly. I almost cry when I sit there and look at Hurley, how she risked her life yesterday to come from West Virginia. And what we're saying to the Democrats is, this is who you should be putting on. These are the people we should be showing America. This doesn't have a damn thing, to do with Democrat and Republican and white and black and North and South. We're talking about passing a piece of legislation that's going to kill people year after year after year after year, and it is morally indefensible.
You know, Reverend Barber, I think there are a lot of, Simone, how are you? There are a lot of people out there who, because they are close to the issue, whether we're talking about the healthcare piece of this, whether we're talking about the SNAP benefits. I know the coffins you all had yesterday had also numbers of how many people from each state would be affected by the loss of supplemental food assistance. I think the people closest to this issue that have been engaged, that anybody has told them about it, they are rightfully riled up and upset about this. They cannot believe that their elected officials would do this. But there are also so many people out there that could potentially be affected, that will be affected by this bill when it goes through, devastating effects that have no idea. How are you taking your message to some of these people in some of the most remote places across this country that you have organized in for a very long time, so that they are aware of what is happening and what the consequences would be if this legislation goes through?
Well, you're right, Simone. We've been cross-posting everywhere. We've got people in 42 different states. We've done over 200 hours of calling, letting impacted people do the calling. And you're right. You're talking about millions of people losing their food stamps, their SNAP. At the time, we got these high grocery prices. And you're talking about all of this being done for the love of money, which is evil. And that's why our movement is focused on poor and low-wage people. You know, the most powerful potential voting bloc in the country, if we can mobilize. But what we've said to many of our politicians, and we're glad you all are doing this, MSNBC, is too often the politicians are talking and not making the stage for the impacted people. Right now, I would say to politicians, you need to get all these impacted people to Capitol Hill. You need to get them in the galleries. You need to do everything you can to put a face on this, because most Americans don't agree with this, but the more they see it, and then on top of that, when they know this bill passes, your rural hospital closes. So you might be 25 miles from a hospital now. This bill passes, you might be 200 miles from a hospital. That means that you are outside of what's called the 1 hour golden hour. If you have a heart attack, you have an hour. You could die just because your hospital moved. And we saw that in North Carolina when North Carolina for years refused to expand Medicaid. Hospital after hospital was closed. Simone, I met a lady who died in a parking lot waiting on a helicopter because the hospital had been moved from right around the corner from where she lived. And she was white, a former Republican, but her husband and her were angry at Trump and the Republicans and changed their tune before she died. But she suffered the consequence. This bill, and I say it clearly, we know you use policy murder. That's what this is.
Joining us now, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. He's co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign.
All right. I'm clicking, couldn't get it to go. Yeah, so I mean, Dr. Barber is absolutely right. And I want, for those of you who, I just noticed some question, the actual effectiveness of Reverend Barber. Let me tell you that, you remember when McCain did this to prevent Obamacare from dying? Let me tell you what Barber did, because a lot of us don't understand what's happening in the background. Barber went to West Virginia. Barber went to North Carolina. Barber went to South Carolina. Barber's Moral Mondays with the movement was so powerful that it had some Republicans in many of these states scared to death. If he had not garnered the support that he got from Republican working class people, I guarantee you that Obamacare would have been dead yesterday. Now they're finding other ways to get to Obamacare by defunding it, which is what this particular bill is doing. They're defunding two parts specifically. One, not defunding, making it more difficult. Their cuts to Medicaid affects the 90-10 version of the Medicaid. What was it called? The Medicaid, the Medicaid expansion, and also what they're doing is the support that people get for their health care, their Obamacare, is gone. So people that are used to paying $120 to $200 with supported health care, right? It's going to be $800 to $900 now. And again, this is where a lot of our red state brothers and sisters don't get it. That change, when they see that, this bill is somehow only affecting waste and fraud. It doesn't, first of all, because they couldn't find waste and fraud. But what it's actually doing is the subsidies. They'll keep the oil subsidies. They'll keep all that stuff for the corporations. But the subsidy to help people buy their Obamacare is being cut. So therefore, whereas you used to be able to get better support for buying your health insurance, that's going to be going up. So when they talk about who the bill is going to affect, and when they talk about everybody's getting a tax cut, no, they're not. No, they're not. They may get a little tiny tax cut here and there, but their health care cost is going to go through the roof. Their grocery prices are going to go through the roof as these tariffs take hold. Go buy an avocado, the ones that are being imported from Mexico. Folks, we are being hoodwinked. I only have time. I need to get to the other video rather quickly here. Who are the victims? Who are the ones that are the losers in this bill? Let's go ahead and play that, and then that will be the closer.
The contrast between who it will help and who it will hurt is coming into focus. The mega bill poised to deliver major tax benefits to corporations and wealthy Americans, but at a heavy cost to Medicaid, food stamps, and clean energy, with millions of lower income Americans potentially losing health coverage. Joining us now is NBC's Melanie Zanona on Capitol Hill. Back with us, Peter Baker and Michael Hardaway. So, Melanie, walk us through as it stands now, who stands to win and who stands to lose with this bill?
Yeah, obviously things are still a bit fluid. The fact that the Senate has to still put this bill through the House, but as it is, there would be some pretty wide-ranging impacts on the country. So I want to walk you through some of the people who have the biggest to gain under this bill and the biggest to lose. I want to start with corporations because a centerpiece of this bill is extending the 2017 tax cuts, but this would actually make the corporate tax breaks from the 2017 tax law permanent. So that means the corporate tax rate is going to remain at 21%, which is down from the 35% level that was in place prior to 2017. But in order to pay for these tax cuts, Republicans had to make some pretty steep spending cuts to the social safety net programs. And that includes restricting the provider tax or the provider fee, which is a pretty big source of revenue for rural hospitals. So they could be hit very hard underneath this bill. That was a huge concern for some moderates. But I will point out one of the last minute deals and one of the amendments that was adopted in the Senate today was an extra $50 billion pot of money to try to help those rural hospitals. Now let's talk about households, because under this bill, the highest income earners will actually see their household resources increase, whereas the bottom income earners will actually see their household resources go down because of cuts to things like Medicaid and food stamps and other healthcare programs. And finally, let's go over the business piece of this. Fossil fuel companies, they're going to get a lot of relief under this bill because it would roll back some of those Biden era regulations that have been put in place, whereas clean energy companies are no longer going to be able to receive some tax subsidies and funding that were put in place underneath the Biden administration. So warnings from people like Lisa Murkowski that clean energy projects could be at risk underneath this bill.
Thank you for that. Well, let's talk, if we can, Michael, about Lisa Murkowski, who indicated in a conversation with one of our reporters on the Hill, Ryan Nobles, that it's good for her constituents, but she acknowledged it's probably bad for a lot of the rest of the country. Mark Wayne Mullen, who's from Oklahoma, and I just randomly Googled Oklahoma and rural hospitals. Here's some of the headlines. Trump's budget bill could make it harder for Oklahomans to access health care. No time to plan for the fallout of potential Medicaid cuts. Oklahoma healthcare leaders warn rural hospitals could shut down. So when, again, our folks went to Mark Wayne Mullen and asked him about his yes vote, this is what he said. What we were trying to do the entire time was to negotiate a bill that wasn't perfect, but moved us in the right direction. How do you read those comments from these Republican senators who decided to vote yes?
Lack of courage. This bill is a garbage casserole. In addition to taking healthcare away from 12 million Americans, you have 500,000 healthcare professionals that will lose their jobs. This is a job-killing bill. You also have 800,000 energy jobs that will be lost as well because of this bill. No one's happier right now than Xi Jinping in China because they are now positioned to win the future because of Donald Trump and because of this bill.
Are you going to go that
I'll tell you why. It's because China is investing heavily in EV and in clean energy right now. And because of Joe Biden, America was positioned to win. Donald Trump is pulling us back. He's investing heavily in oil and gas, the energy of the past that we still kind of need. But for the future, what is the plan for the future? That's the issue here.
Folks, everything that Donald Trump is doing right now is exactly right. What that panelist had to say was correct. It's pulling us to the past. It is pulling us to the past. So, folks, we have to understand what is going on here. Look, I'm close for time right now. I have a live that I'm going to be on in the next 2 minutes. So if you are on Substack, I will be with Marlon Weems doing a live on birthright citizenship. Check us out, but I'm going to have to shut us down here. I want to thank all of you for coming, all of you for being here. Please please be sure to support the program however you can. The best way to support our program is to become paid subscribers of Politics Done, or rather Egberto Off the Record. And how do you do that? To do that, you go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and I'm putting that into the chat right now. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. We are a few hundred, about 500 and something away from, I think 570 or so away from our goal. Please, please, please support independent media. We do our work to inform. That is what we do, and we'll continue to do that. If you need to take a break, that's fine. You take a little break, but come back. We are not taking any breaks. We're doing what needs to be done. Love you all. You can write me directly at Politics Done. Look at me. info@politicsdoneright.com. info@politicsdoneright.com. One more time, please become paid subscribers. It's worth it. I guarantee you. We give you all our books, all that good stuff. It's worth it. And you will be supporting telling the truth. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.